Welcome back to the How Do You Human podcast. I'm Sam.
Zaya.
What is up? How are you?
I am mostly good. I think I'm feeling the effects of seasonal change, just that it's getting darker sooner. Don't love that. It's getting colder and absolutely don't like that.
I know I'm good with maybe the first snow. But pretty much after that, I'm done. I've been looking up flights. I'm like, I need a, a vacation somewhere warmer. Oh,
Wow, first snow and you're already trying to escape. And I think y'all got snow. Well, for those watching, you're in Illinois, you're near Chicago. I'm in Denver, and I think y'all got snow before we did.
yeah. Yes, we did. It wasn't too bad, and the sun came out the next day, started to melt. So I cannot complain, but I definitely am already, as you said, just feeling the effects of that seasonal change and trying to figure out how to make it through. So, do you have any practices or things that you do to try to keep the spirits high during winter?
Well, because coldness and darkness just sound really depressing to me, I like to seek warmth, and especially in water. Warm water is probably one of my favorite ways to endure the winter. So, a trip to Ojo Caliente or just well, that's a hot springs area, by the way. More baths, taking more baths. It's probably one of my practices. How about you?
A lot of, like you said, seeking the warmth. So hot teas and warm blankets, cuddling up under warm blankets. And then I just do a lot of sauna at the gym every time. It just in the sauna, it's just bacon.
I feel like you had a cool quote about something. There's no such thing as cold days or something like that.
Oh, yes. And I can't remember who's responsible for this quote, but there's no such thing as bad weather, only bad clothing. So I will say I've got the biggest, furriest coat, and it is my favorite thing about winter. I break that out and it's wonderful.
Nice. I also have a zero. Maybe one of our podcasts will both be in our coats as we get into the frigid weather. I also have like a 0 degree big white coat, and I will definitely be wearing it when the temps drop.
Yes. Yes,
And
yes.
I will say for me, I do like winter until January 1st. Just there's something where it pairs with the holidays really well. And so I try not to complain about the winter until we get to January. And then after January 1st, I'm over it.
Yeah, that is true. There's something magical if it does snow on Christmas. When it doesn't, it feels kind of weird. When it's warm during Christmas, it feels kind of weird. So I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
All right. Well, now that we've touched base, let's get into the meat of the session. I don't know if that's the great term, but if you
The
joined us,
heart of the session.
oh, yes. If you joined us for our last podcast, we did a little bit of a get to know you, but today we're going to dive deeper into something very important for Zaya, and that is a passion project and offering to the world called Manaheart. So tell us, what is Manaheart?
Yeah, thank you. I'm really excited to share more about myself and talk about this mission work. Manaheart it's been this 6 year journey, but specifically over the last 3 years. And Manaheart is the power of the heart, essentially. Mana is actually a word from Hawaii, which is like spiritual life force or the kind of that intrinsic spiritual energy that moves through us to be expressed outwardly. So that name just showed up over the last couple of years through my own transformative journey and became the brand for all the work that I do. So whether I'm working with clients one-on-one as a somatic heart guide and consultant, whether I am doing somatic practicing, body work, emotional release sessions, whether I'm public speaking or facilitating circles, workshops, and retreats. Manaheart became kind of the name, the umbrella name for all the work that I'm doing.
That's great. And
And I think the philosophy behind Manaheart is this idea where we 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 are living in a very pressing moment, and it's not a new moment. It feels like this moment has been around for decades, but it still feels very present, or it feels still feels very God, I'm lost for words right now. It feels very pertinent that we exist in a time where what could asking the question, what could life look like, what could our reality look like if we had the heart driving the vehicle more so than the brain. We're used to the brain operating the vehicle and the heart, maybe strapped in the back seat, or even worse, tied up and thrown in the trunk. But what would life look like as human beings on this planet if our hearts were driving our vehicles and our brains were the companion riding shotgun? And so I think about that as kind of like an overarching philosophy of what humanity would look like.
okay. And that gives us more insight into kind of why you chose Manaheart and for your name. So does Manaheart have a vision statement?
Yes, the vision, Manahart's vision is to one day co-create a world, or to see a world that is alive with courageous vulnerability, with authentic expression, and with sacred interconnection.
All right. Well, this definition feels very specific. So tell me more about the first part, courageous vulnerability. What does that mean?
I was recently on a call with the Mankind Project, and for 45 minutes, each person just shared what their own opinions and definition of vulnerability was. And I remember speaking to the fact that, or to my idea that it feels like it's when we allow the stories in our body to surface and to be honest and to share what those stories are, uh, to be witnessed by other people, to be held in our communities. And so I think of courageous vulnerability as an honesty of what is really alive inside of us. And I think for men specifically, we tend to hide or exist in spaces of denial. I think for a male to say, I'm not okay, or I don't feel strong today, or anything of that sort is incredibly courageous and gets us outside of denial, or outside of posturing a false sense of confidence and security, rather than bypassing the truth of what is going on inside of us with statements like, oh, I got this, I'm good, I'll shake it off, I'll be fine. What would it look like if we could really just tap in and integrate more into our whole self, and be more real and alive and honest and vulnerable?
And that I think in doing that will naturally lead to your second part of the vision statement, which is authentic expression.
Yes. And yeah, it feels like that's the second piece of it, right? Because when we can get through the body of all the wounds and fears that exist there with our faith, and get to the heart to access our courage, and then come back into our body with that courage to face that fear and to face what's there, the childhood wounds and everything, then we start living more authentically. Then we can start walking this path with our own truth. And it reminds me of the very first partner I ever had in life, how she had two degrees, a master's degree, had an amazing government job, and was pretty much set for life on this track of retirement, being taken care of. And she wasn't happy. She was essentially living her parents' dream more so than her own. And out of nowhere, she, while we were together, she just quit. She decided, I'm not doing this anymore. I'm not happy. And I thought that was such a brave moment in her life, to walk away from 2 degrees, student debt, a job that gave her all the security that most people are kind of like invested in, or feel like they need. And so, yeah, I think authentic expression is when we can brave walking this path with what's really our story rather than living the stories that society may have conditioned us to believe is our path.
Yes, that makes a lot of sense. And then I cannot remember the third thing, but tell me,
Sacred interconnection.
yes, tell me how that kind of brings it all together or what that means.
It feels like it really does hold the whole thing. It feels like the membrane of the heart kind of holding the whole idea together. And sacred interconnection means having a relationship of reciprocity and gratitude with each other, the way we honor each other with earth, with the land, and with resources, with our resources. And this idea felt like the last leg of Manaheart because it came to me in 2024 while I was living on the Big Island in Hawaii at the top of Hakalau up the Hamakua coast. And it was just this deepening of a relationship with the land. And I found myself being invited by natives, the Keiki Okaaina, right, the children of the land, into these sacred spaces, spaces that would have been really hard to appreciate if you didn't have a guide there to really uh, show you the culture in the land and kind of the tradition of what these spaces meant historically. And through that whole relationship, and through that experience, I was also reading, and this was such a good pairing. I was reading Braided Sweetgrass by Robin Wall Kimmerer. So on top of immersing myself with the land and with these Hawaiians, I was also learning so much about just indigenous culture as on its own. And that's where they spoke a lot about reciprocity and gratitude. And it just really sunk in how when we move into this heart-centered reality, we have to bring empathy into capitalism, and we have to live more with exchange rather than extraction in this world. And the system really creates this large divide of a have and have not, top 5%, et cetera, et cetera. But what would it look like if we could really hold reciprocity and gratitude in the way our culture exists together?
So what I'm hearing when you talk about Manaheart and you said how it's very like pertinent to the time that we're living in is because a lot of people right now are trying to figure out what in the world do we do about everything that's going on, be it globally or just nationally. And I think people are struggling with connection and with traumas and what you had mentioned about the way that the body is storing all of that. And so you're talking about practices that are geared towards human beings thriving versus I just when you mentioned the these practices of just like extraction versus this reciprocity, I just think of a world and human beings that are thriving and that are very connected to are very not just not connected is just the natural thing. We're all connected to each other, but very in touch with being connected to each other. I don't know if
Yeah.
I'm on the like I'm headed in the right direction with that or not, or if you can.
Yeah, and honestly, this could be a whole podcast in and of itself, talking about, a brighter future for the majority rather than a world that puts the minority on a pedestal and shrinks the voices and the presence of let's say the majority systemically in the way that it's built. Um, but but yes, Bruce Lipton is a hero of mine, and I one of the like if you look at my business card, it says the wisdom of the body, the calling of the soul, and it's really about how how our anatomy, our microbiology is a template for how we can create a better world that serves and honors the majority. And I think to one of the things you spoke of, it feels like it's a struggle. It feels like it's a daunting idea. And I think it is important to, as one person I remember seeing on a social media page said, stay in your tax bracket, right? Don't take on something that's bigger than what you're meant to do. Just I look at it as having faith in a divine process, that we are in this realm of giving birth to a new chapter. And what am I meant to bring? How am I meant to show up? And yes, through gratitude, through presence, and through finding connection, we can begin building little micro communities that create a heart resonant field, and eventually this creates links together where it grows and grows and expands. And I think as one system serves its time, this new system that a lot of us feel in resonance with will begin to have be established or be ready to assume a new way of presence, or a new presence in our future.
I love that. One of the things I hear you talking about often when you speak about your work is healing begins with acceptance, I think is what you always say. And I wanted to ask you to tell me a little bit more about that or what you mean when you say that.
Healing starts with acceptance is one of my favorite quotes, because we're we're inviting spirit to communicate what needs to be healed. It's important to note that it's not a resignation. We're not giving up. There's that very delicate moment between we're struggling with something like an illness, and we don't want that illness anymore, and so we're seeking healing. And I've been blessed and fortunate to work with clients who had conditions like MS, conditions like cancer, and through our time together, those illnesses have just disappeared, or healed itself even before medical treatment started. In one case with a cancer patient, but you don't make any promises on what's going to happen. And I think the very first part of healing is to ask spirit in to this question of what is being asked to be healed. I think that's such an important part of the healing journey. And I think we talked about an example or a story where this man had a particular amount of time left to live, and your natural inclination is to want to change that narrative, or fight that diagnosis. And as he found a sense of acceptance, a sense of peace, a sense of connection to spirit, he began realizing that the thing that was most important to him is to reconnect with his daughter, who he hadn't talked to in 10 or 15 years. And so he calls his daughter. He says he's sorry. They strike up a healthy healing conversation. And I imagine in that moment, he probably felt more life just reconnecting to his daughter than he had felt in years on his own. And that's just like a prime example of where, in that case, his healing journey was not about healing his body. His healing journey, what was being asked of him, was to heal his relationship with his daughter, which it's hard for us to perceive this, but for what his next journey is after this life, and continuing, that was critical. That was so important to his soul work through whatever his future lifetimes look like. And so even though his body did not recover, he found his healing journey.
Yes, that's so true. I've been thinking a lot about just how blessed I am to be your sister and have these conversations with you. And even, you know, a lot of our conversations kind of end up maybe not intentionally or that we specifically said this is how it's going to go, but I feel sometimes I get a little bit of coaching in our calls, and I've just been reflecting on the way in which you look at, some unfortunate times or hard times, and how you have a tendency to really encourage through that, to not get stuck. And I think it's easy to get stuck where you are, or reliving a trauma, or in a state of negativity if you're attached to an outcome. And so when you say healing begins or starts with acceptance, one of the things I hear in that is, you're you're inviting presence into your situation and to what's going on, and you're and in finding that acceptance for the situation, trying to find that blessing. So for that gentleman, it wasn't necessarily that his healing looked like surviving and living, however many more years he had hoped, or maybe at the beginning, I think it's easy to become attached to a certain outcome when you seek like mentorship or a guide or coaching or healing. But in finding that acceptance, you can really find kind of the nugget and like you said, like what is spirit really trying to tell me and address. And yeah, I just wanted to give you a little bit of a shout out for even our conversations and the way that you're very positive, you're very focused on not getting stuck, and also not being attached to any specific outcome,
Mhm.
but open, very open.
Yeah. Thank you, sis. And also I'm also learning like the importance of grieving too. And so our natural instinct is survival if we feel like our lives are and our health is being threatened. And historically, I've been I've been I would say there's what's that term Mr. Toxically positive. So I've had chapters in my life where I've been toxically positive because I've been so on the positive side, and I've had to really learn the importance of honoring grief and honoring the emotion of the rawness of what we're going through when it's sad, when it's tragic. And so that's important too. But yeah, like you said, even though our instinct is survival, can we come to this place of consciousness, of awareness, to ask, what is really, what are we being asked of, in the healing journey? It's so important to find that discovery, and to not and to be open to what it is.
Yes, I agree. For anyone watching this and thinking, wow, all of this really resonates with me, tell us more about how do we get involved with Manaheart?
Manaheart.com is live, so people can go there and look over more of who I am and what this mission looks like, this collective. And from there, contact me if they're interested. We have the Manaheart Circle, which feels like the very first branch of the tree, and those are spaces we create for people to feel more deeply, to share more boldly, to live more fully. And so we have, in these circles, we have somatic movements, we have community singing, and then we integrate storying in between the songs. So we kind of go in and out of song and story, which is this really beautiful, vulnerable space that we create. That I love it so much because I feel like the more we come together in hearts, we're kind of like the Care Bears. You know how the Care Bears had that stare, and so there's just this exponential amplification that happens when it's like 1 plus 1 is way more than two, and 2 plus 2 is way more than four when you bring hearts together in this, creating this coherent, resonant field. And so, yeah, in terms of what Monoheart's offering and what we're doing, we're here in Colorado every month doing a Monoheart Circle, creating that space in Denver and also up north in Fort Collins. And we just recently had our a circle just wait, what's today? Today's Tuesday, Monday. Today's Monday. On Saturday, we had the Manaheart Circle in Fort Collins, Colorado, at the Be Free Healing Center, and it was beautiful. There was an elder there who was in confined to a chair or a walker, and we do this ritual where we open the circle by walking in a circle. And her daughter was there, and we said, you just stay there. You do not have to get up and walk in the circle. We're going to walk around you. You are perfectly fine just where you are. And it felt like one of those Holy Spirit moments. She stood right up and was like, I'm walking with you. And she did the walk with us, and we took our time and we all went in it together. And it's just like a beautiful opening ritual, very ceremonial in the way we were able to start the circle.
Oh, that's actually making me like tear up a little bit. Hit me right in the heart.
Yeah, it was hitting me too. I was so in appreciation that she was even there to explore the Manaheart Circle and to be a part of it. So excited for just how this is growing and expanding.
I love it. I hope that I can make it to Colorado soon and be a part of an in-person session. I know that,
You I was just gonna say you had a friend. One of your friends was in our circle 2 days ago, so I'll have to
yes,
catch up with her and ask her how it was.
yeah, probably tonight, probably in a few hours, I'll call her, see, see what's going on. Um, I was gonna say though, for those that I guess are not in Colorado and want to be a part of Manaheart, what do you got? What do you got for?
So yeah, in person is the Manaheart circles. I also work with people one on one with emotional release and bodywork sessions. And then I work with people remotely as well as a somatic heart guide. And then we have two branches of the Manaheart tree that are almost ready. We have the Manaheart Collective, which is a monthly call all about the heart, all about community, and really building a community from there. So that is a space that people can connect to from anywhere in the world. It will happen about once a month. And hopefully in January is our first call. Details will show up on the website, and people can also subscribe to the newsletter and they'll get information as soon as we have our dates and details. It'll be sent out to everybody on our newsletter. And then the other branch developing is the Manaheart Resonance, and this is a workshop to help with the continuity of where we what our challenges and what our struggles is when we begin this expansion. So as soon as you start opening up to, let's say, courageous vulnerability or authentic expression, or just the way in which spirit is calling you into this this space of fear and uncertainty, you're now like, okay, well, where it's taking me, where do I go with it? And it can be very challenging. I think we need each other, we need connection, we need community. And so I am putting together a workshop that really helps people find grounding practices and rituals that help them hold together the kind of the trifold or the trinity of self, the agency that we have to bring, community, the network and the connections that are important for us to partake in and find, and then spirit being that third piece. How do we invite and collaborate with the divinity of spirit to kind of hold the whole thing together? So those are ways in which Manaheart will be connecting with people from abroad, regardless of where they're at.
That's great. So make sure you go to manaheart.com and subscribe for updates to stay in touch and to stay connected. I do know I'm subscribed to your blog. It's not up on manaheart.com yet. I really like being able to read what you're writing and what you're, I guess, what is inspiring you lately. Those blogs always come from, I feel like I've said the word heart a million times, but it's so relevant now and it's like the perfect word. So I really enjoyed your last blog. You talked about depression and gave it a name, and that really resonated with me because it's something that I struggle with. And in the blog, you just discuss kind of in giving it a name, it's like making it a friend and this familiar thing that visits and not something to just be bypassed or to pretend that you can always be happy all the time. Sometimes when I read some stuff online from different like spiritual guides or practitioners, it just sounds like they're selling almost like not being human in a way where it's like if you do this, you'll just never face all that other stuff like depression and adversity and hard times. And yeah, your blog really resonated with me because it was about, once again, just embracing, understanding, knowing that it can be cyclical and that it's okay and that it can come, but it also must leave. Like you're not gonna, back to that piece about just not getting stuck somewhere and staying depressed, but just that you can welcome it, that you can say hello, but that you also have these practices of like saying goodbye as well. So for those who want to read more. I'm sure you'll get your blog up on the website soon enough, but I just wanted to talk about it and mention it a little bit because I just think you're a very eloquent writer, and I've always envied that about you.
Hmm. Thank you. Yeah, I've been writing a long time. Feels like 2 decades or more, maybe. And yeah, I remember that post. That blog was called Me and Diane. So Diane is the name I give my depression. And yeah, the blog will be on the website soon. I just have to attach the Substack link, but anyone can go to Substack, type in either my name or Manaheart, and they would find the blog. But yeah, it was this idea of depression can feel fogless, formless, and and that's hard because we can either get stuck in it or we can bypass it and cover it up and try to pretend like it's not there, and then it just grows and grows and grows without us even being aware of it, and sabotages us. And I feel like addiction and who knows what else becomes this like domino effect. And so yeah, it I just was having this relationship with my depression and realizing it helps to give it a name. It helps to understand how it's coming and going, and make sure that I don't get stuck in it, but I also don't pretend like it's not there. And I think the more I've gotten into this emotional availability, this courageous vulnerability, I've realized that it's the emotions are like a hamster wheel. Like that depression is leaving, but it's going to come back around and it's going to arrive again. And yeah, it feels important to understand its nature and its cycles, and again a sense of acceptance. It gave me a lot more appreciation for women and just their hormonal cycles, knowing that even for all human beings we have cycles too in terms of the emotional spectrum. And yeah, you're right, there's books on the law of attraction. We should just manifest, manifest, manifest. And there's these books on the law of positivity. We should never, never be sad. And I do think those philosophies are a little outdated and lack uh, some important aspects of the integrated human essence, which is why I love the law of alignment way more than the law of attraction these days. And instead of always being positive, just being real and allowing yourself to feel both sides of the spectrum. I think that's where true joy comes in, is when you can allow yourself to feel the opposite of joy.
I think that perfectly ties into your 1 and 2 for your mission statement, where this courageous vulnerability to be comfortable, like in your skin, and to um, and to feel whatever you're feeling, and then in doing that, that leads to this authentic expression of yourself. So I love that. I did want to highlight because I think this goes um, well, or what is the right term?
It pairs.
Very well. That wasn't what I was gonna say. I lose these phrases all the time, and then I just meh, whatever. Okay, but I was gonna say that it goes well with the blogs and you being an eloquent writer and storyteller. Tell me about t-shirts.
T-shirts.
So I have, tell them, okay, read mine.
Our tears are sacred. And then when you turn around, it says they water the stories we bury. That might be my favorite t-shirt out of all the Manaheart t-shirts. But starting from the beginning, though, there's this amazing human. His name is Aaron Johnson, and I consider him a friend, mentor. He's the founder of Holistic Resistance, and he kind of wears his brand, and he has this hat called "Listening is the First Hug," which is such a powerful statement. And through my relationship with him and my partnership with him, I started getting inspired to do the same thing, to kind of wear my own brand. And so I had this idea that um, turn merchandise into medicine in the same way people wear tattoos on their body to kind of to wear their symbols or their memories or what's important to them. What if we also just wore medicine in our clothing? And so these quotes would come to me like the one you're wearing. Our tears are sacred. They water the stories that we bury. And that came to me during a lot of men's retreats, like how us men would be looking to access our tears, and we needed the rain of truth to really open up the stories that we buried and bring them to the surface for healing and grief work. And the shirt I'm wearing is called "When You're Not Healing." I don't know. Can you see it? Okay.
If you're not
If
healing,
you're
you're
not
like,
healing, you are likely harming. And so that was another quote. Yeah. So essentially, what happens is these quotes will come to me. I will write a story about them, and then I'll put it on a shirt. And it's a part of the Manaheart heartwear. It's our heartwear. It's not up on the website yet. People who have these shirts are just ordering them through me directly at the moment. But I have this link called Heartwear, like instead of hardware, heartwear, where the shirts will eventually be up and people can see them online. And each shirt has a quote, and each quote has a story to it. So it'll probably link to the Substack blog so you can read the story that was behind or paired with the quote. And for this shirt I'm wearing, I remember I was in Feeling, California with in the car with Saraswati and another uh, practitioner facilitator. Their name is Alex, indigenous person. And all of a sudden I just said out loud, if you're not healing, you're likely harming. And then Saraswati noticed that quote and said, whoa, say that again. And it just turned into this, I don't know, I feel like sometimes just spirit communicates with you and speaks some really profound wisdom. And yeah, I love to, when that happens, capture it and create a story, the story that goes with it. And yeah, I love wearing. I think it also is a nice segue for a conversation to connecting with total strangers. They see your shirt, it resonates or it inspires, and then all of a sudden we're having this like really beautiful dialogue.
yes, very similar to a tattoo where you see it on someone and it makes you think or it makes you feel something. And so, yes, I love reading the blogs too because it gives the quotes so much more depth and understanding, but it's a great way to strike up a conversation and potentially open the door and give someone an opportunity to be courageously vulnerable, like to share something that they may have never shared. And
Yes.
who knows what that leads to.
Bringing their stories to the surface to be witnessed. Yes. I
Yes.
also think it's interesting. I don't have a tattoo yet. So I guess these are my tattoos is wearing this type of clothing. I've always thought maybe one day I would get a tattoo. Honestly, I would love to maybe get one with a partner one day. We have like some kind of co thing going on, but I feel like I might be the only one who does not have a tattoo. I'm one of the few people who do not have a tattoo in this world.
I think there's more of you than you know, but yeah, I get it. I have tattoos, so just a couple. Um, I wanted to ask because if I'm looking for a mentor or a coach, I want someone who's like walking their talk. And with this message of courageous vulnerability, how are you living that out in your life?
Yeah, right. One of my favorite sayings is work with the people who are doing the work. And I'm still in this journey of learning and growing, and that's never going to change. In terms of, I just remember when I left, I had co-founded with my ex at the time the Sanctuary Healing Spa, and so I felt like a healer at the time. I could say I was, and 2020 and 2019 were just such profound years for so many people of a shift, and that was the time where it felt like the healer needed healing, and so I had to slow down, which was huge for me. I didn't know what slowing down was. I had to pause. Another thing, like not to just slow down, but to come to a stop and to really look inward and find integration, to go into my own flaws, my own imperfections, my own stories that I needed to address, my own childhood wounds. That was a huge part of my journey over the last 6 years, which, it's not over, but it's been a ton of work over the last 6 years. And another aspect of this journey for me is embracing the darkness. And I like to think of the cocoon, like being in a cocoon when you're in that cocoon, it is so easy to not fully get in there, or to push it aside, or even to bypass it and pretend like you're in a cocoon, and kind of your ego tricks yourself into this identity of wholeness, and really you've just sidestepped it, or you get into the cocoon, which is incredibly brave to be in there, and then you break out of it too early. It's almost like even like pregnancy, right? Like a baby has to come out at the right time. You can't sit in there too long. It can't come out too early. And I know part of my journey in experiencing being a cocoon, in this cocoon, three of the things I went through is darkness, confusion, and fear. And even last year, I think part of the what I would consider an initiation, or a transformation I went through on the Big Island, was periods of severe darkness, of severe confusion. Questioning, did I make the right decision? Why am I out here? Did I mess up somewhere in my past? And just to not run from it, to like embrace darkness, confusion, and fear as my teachers, and have that sticking point where I'm like, okay, even though I feel lost, even though I am more I'm going through more emotional whims and experiences of like depression and confusion, and even like a slippery slope of questioning my existence. We talked about, we have suicide in our family, and last year was the first time I could truly relate or empathize viscerally with some of the loss that we've witnessed and experienced our own grief in, because I was like, whoa, I had a moment of questioning how I would feel about my own existence going through some of those dark periods. So yeah, in terms of doing that work or being in it myself, I've definitely had to learn to slow down, to pause, to integrate, to really honestly and patiently go through or experience vulnerability, emotional availability, and just the power of being in that cocoon, and having those teachers and sticking with those teachers until it was the right time to come out of it. And I don't even know if I'm out of it altogether. I might only like be My head might be sticking out of the cocoon. I may still be like hatching. And these are all cycles too. And so, as you spiral through, a lot of these things come back full circle to meet you again for something else you need to learn. But I think that's how I'd characterize my own challenges, my own bravery, my own earnest courage into this journey over the last 5 years. It's There are times it's felt like I jumped off a cliff and I'm free falling, and then there's been moments where it felt like I pulled the parachute, and okay, I'm not free falling anymore, but I'm still not grounded and landed, trying to navigate such whimsical and times of uncertainty. I will say lastly, I really love meeting other people who have had similar pathways, especially around 2019. It was almost like something called so many of us into this transformative period right before COVID happened. And when I meet other people who have had this similar experience of their journey just shifting suddenly during that time period, it just makes me feel like I'm not alone. Like we're a pack who have been called into this work.
Yes, thank you so much for sharing and getting very personal. Um, Side note, I heard someone told me the story once that when the caterpillar goes into a cocoon, it literally like explodes into like guts,
Okay.
comes out a butterfly. And I can't help but think about that story anytime people talk about going into a cocoon and just embracing transformation. So it to me, I'm always like, oh, this is just such scary, dark, and like sometimes turbulent times of explosion. And then on the other side of that is this beautiful butterfly and transformation. But yeah, just how important the work is, how difficult it can be, and how rewarding in the end it can also be as well. So thank you for sharing all of that.
Yeah, it's so true. It can feel like your insides are exploding. It is, yeah. There's no way around transformation other than to experience the fear.
Yes. Well, we'll say it again, Manaheart.com for those who want to learn more. Do you have any closing thoughts?
Hmm. Closing thoughts. I'm just excited. I think there's so much to be stressed about. There's so much to be pained about, like in the world that we are in and in its suffering. And for some reason or other, it's just our collective human destiny to navigate this really tangible paradox between essentially, if this analogy lands, like one world collapsing as another world emerges. And that's such a hard liminal gray space to be in. But through it all, there's this underlying belief that our destiny is not over. It's just beginning a new chapter. And how can we be raw and hold the realness of the difficulty of this global space we're in, but also simultaneously, yeah, just be in the trust and know that there's a plan, and we're a part of this divinity, and really in this conception that we are giving birth to. So hang in there, everybody. And through resonance, through coherence, through belief, through collaboration of spirit, self-agency, and the communities and how we come together, we got this.
We got this.
Yeah.
Well, this has been another episode of How Do You Human? Thank you guys so much for joining. Please comment, like, share, and just let us know if you want to hear us talk about anything, or we've already had some people recommend different guest speakers, so that's really exciting. And yeah, be on the lookout for the next episode.
Yes. Yeah, we're actually going to be reaching out to a professor at Naropa University, and it's a little premature for me to put that out there, but we'll see if we have some cool guests coming on soon.
Yes. All right, y'all, take care.
Peace.
I just wanna wake up, get my cake up, praise my maker, ayo, 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 ayo. Nice. I was ready to keep singing.